And a son of 8 days is circumcised by you, every male child in your generations. He who was born in your house or bought with silver from any foreigner who is not your seed. He who is born in your house and he who is bought with the silver has to be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And an uncircumcised male child who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, his life shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. I know a lot of people get messed up by reading Acts chapter 15. But let's bear in mind, does anybody in Acts chapter 15 or anywhere in Acts have authority to change, alter, add to, or take away from Torah? No. Okay, so it doesn't really matter if we understand or don't understand Acts 15. We know what they can't be doing is saying that you're no longer required to get circumcised. Why do we know that? Because it's an everlasting covenant of being Abraham's seed. So all of you men out there that are still wanting to fight, argue, debate, make excuses, knock it off. Or cut it off. Or cut it out. Well, normally I would say knock it off or cut it out. Well, cut it out. It says, his life shall be cut off from his people. You don't want to cut off the foreskin, well, you're going to get cut off. Stop arguing about this. There's only one valid excuse, and this has come up in our discussions before, for not getting circumcised if you want to be covenanted. You don't want to be covenanted, you don't have to do anything. The covenant has an expectation of performance, do's and don'ts. He's saying this is a sign of a covenant, which, by the way, he said this covenant is between who? Abraham and his seed forever. This is not just a between him and Abraham thing. This is between him and all the generations forward. So let's understand, as we're looking at this covenant that's between him and Abraham and his seed going forward, okay, and we want to make excuses and we want to spin this and that because you don't want to do what you don't want to do. But there's an expectation of performance here. Don't claim you're covenanted if you don't have the sign of the covenant. And I'm tired of people arguing and making excuses and everything else. All right? And don't give me this, all the websites saying it's abuse and this and that and the other thing. That's what you always find from the opposition to anything. They're always going to attack and accuse it as being evil and horrible and this and that and the other thing. All right? I can also introduce you to people who didn't circumcise their children, and their children ended up with all kinds of bacterial and other infections and stuff, and it is not good. It is ugly, okay? There's a reason why in the U.S., back in the 60s and stuff, they just started doing it automatically for everybody. They don't do that necessarily anymore, but they used to, because there was health issues. Okay, so keeping that whole area clean is not simple as it might sound, especially expecting a kid to do it. And the kid can't do it when they're a little baby, which means you have to do it. And guess what, Mom, you may not want to be doing that. Because that isn't a pleasant thing to necessarily have to deal with. Of course, if your baby gets circumcised on the 8th day, there's no issue. And let's not go into this whole, well, back in the original days, they just snipped off a little bit. Where are you getting these articles from? Back in the original days. Okay, our brother Judah has been doing this longer than anybody. They're the ones who maintain the sign of the covenant, and they cut the whole thing off, thank you very much. So don't tell me you can find articles arguing with that. And when David went and killed all the Philistines and came back, right, with his bag full of foreskins or whatever he did, it wasn't these tiny little slivers of pieces. He took off the foreskins. I know you don't like this conversation. Oh, but you always tell all your friends how you just want the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me, blah, blah, blah. Do you? Then go get circumcised. But you're wanting me to go well, yeah, when you're 8 days old, you don't think about all that. So sorry for you that your mother didn't do it and your father didn't do it when you were a kid. So now you got to actually make that decision as an adult. Well, you know what? That makes the decision all that more powerful and meaningful. Because I can promise you, I was circumcised on the 8th day, and I remember none of it. And I had no choice. I have a nice little certificate that the rabbi gave my parents. If you ever come by my house, I could show it to you. Okay? But the point is, no, I don't have the foreskin to show you, just the certificate. I know where you were going with that. No, I don't have that. It's in formaldehyde in a jar in my house. Okay, now that we're completely gone off the rails here, but I knew I felt like I was going to be a little preachy today. Look, either you're in or you're out. If you're in, that means you are covenanted. Not a believer, not saved, not all this other stuff, but covenanted. What does the covenant expect of you? It expects you to be circumcised or you're not in the covenant. So get it done.